Ah, there she is, Red Velvet, a brand spanking new Airbus A350-1000 and the first of its kind to join the Virgin Atlantic fleet. This was filmed right after her first commercial flight from London to New York, and you gotta admit, that's a good looking plane. Now any rational aviation enthusiast who has a struggling YouTube channel would jump at the chance to take a trip on one of this plane's first flights, but no, that's not me. Because when I heard that Virgin was moving to retire their fleet of A340-600s, I just couldn't say no to flying on one. I mean, come on. What's cooler than flying on a quad jet nowadays? And that's why I wasn't too happy when I found out that Virgin had switched my plane at the last moment, and I'd be flying instead on this A330. That's strike one, Virgin Atlantic. Oh well, life goes on. I'm just glad I got to catch a glimpse of this beautiful plane before she made her way back to London. Safe travels, Red Velvet, and farewell to all the attention and new subscribers that I may have gotten if I had been aboard today. For tonight's flight, my strategy was to grab a seat way at the back of the plane, so hopefully I wouldn't have anyone sitting next to me. Well, of course, British Airways decided to go on strike, and this flight ended up being completely full. Thanks, British Airways. Now, before my seatmate gets here, let's take a quick look around before it gets too awkward to film. The sides of the headrest aren't adjustable, but you can move it up and down. There's also a pillow, a blanket, and a pair of headphones waiting for you when you arrive. Also, have you noticed the purple mood lighting? These seats are old, but I do love the 242 configuration on the A330. Eventually someone took the seat next to mine, and it was time to set out to the runway. But don't worry, I'll do some more filming of the seat later. And here's one final look at El Al's 747. This is one plane I really would have loved to have flown on.
Turbulence, so you should keep it fastened whenever you're in your seat. If turbulence is expected or occurs, the captain will turn on the...
As promised, let's take a closer look at the seat. You can't really tell from this shot, but the legroom is actually pretty good. It's 17.5 inches wide and offers 31 inches of pitch. In total, there's 185 normal economy seats on this plane. Each seat also has a USB power port. Let's see if it works. Now let's take a look at the IFE system. There's a really nice selection of movies and TV shows. I also really like this interface, even though there was a bit of a lag. Because the touchscreen wasn't very responsive, I ended up using this control for most of the flight. One annoying problem that I had was that my headphones just wouldn't stay in the jack. I got a lot of static, and the sound would just cut off now and then. One thing that really surprised me though, was that menus were handed out in economy. That's a really nice touch. The meal service started about an hour into the flight. You had a choice between chicken, pork, or a vegetarian option. I decided to go with the chicken curry. Your tray also came with a whole bunch of other things too. If there's one way to sum up this meal, it's that it looked exactly like it tasted. Not very good. I'm not a picky eater, but this meal was barely edible. Although Virgin does win the award for the coolest cutlery, I also love the purple cups too. Once the meal had been cleared away, the cabin lights were turned off and everyone tried to get some sleep. Except for me, because I just can't sleep on planes. When we were an hour and a half away from Heathrow, these breakfast boxes were handed out. I loved the design, but there wasn't much inside, except for cool cutlery. Growing up, Virgin was always hailed as the cool airline, and you can still see a lot of that. There's hip and modern design elements all over the cabin, from the groovy mood lighting to the fancy forks and knives. And let's not forget about the economy class menus. That stuff is cool, but at the end of the day, I really wasn't blown away by Virgin Atlantic like I thought I would. And to be honest, I really preferred the British Airways 777 flight I took to London a few months ago. Cool design elements are great, but really, you can't eat nice looking cutlery, or a menu, and these things just seemed more like gimmicks than anything else. I really believe that most travelers would prefer a more substantial meal instead. Don't get me wrong, this was a perfectly fine flight and the crew were also wonderful. Maybe I just set my expectations too high, and I was a little down about the plane being switched. Now I haven't completely written off Virgin Atlantic. I realize that this is one of their older planes and their newer 787s and A350s are probably gorgeous. They're also set to take delivery of 14 A330-900 Neos, and again, I'm sure they'll come out great, and I'll definitely try to grab a seat on one of those when the time comes so I can see the updated Virgin product for myself. But until then, I'd say stay away from these older A330s. Well, that'll do it for this trip report. Let me know what your thoughts are on Virgin Atlantic below, and if you enjoyed this review, please like and subscribe. There's more cool flights coming up soon.